Hey there, boils and ghouls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly, where George and I talk to Garin Sparks. Now, Garin is a fan of the Hollow Weekly page, and we are fans of the films he's worked on. Literally, you name a film, chances are he's probably worked on it. He is one busy son of a gun. He's an all-round awesome dude to talk to, so we hope you enjoy the interview.
Guys, have you everybody has like that certain horror movie that kind of like resonates to their heart? Have you guys reviewed The Wraith yet? Because I love that movie, and there's so much interesting history about that movie that no one ever talks about. And besides the fact that it's got like the best soundtrack ever, all the talent that came out of that movie, I mean, it's just an incredible film. And I didn't know if you guys reviewed that one. But I think it's somewhere in like the 20s, which shows you that Rotten Tomatoes has no fucking idea what they're talking about. That movie is awesome.
A terrible website. We picked The Car, and then we were like, we don't want to do car movies, but we almost chose The Wraith. So let's talk about this movie, because I love this movie.
And I'm looking at it for the first time over here.
When did you first see it? Do you remember?
I saw it as a kid. You guys, we were talking about like one of the best screenings we've ever been to.
Yes.
About 8 or 9 years ago for Terror Tuesday, which is a weekly horror series they show in Austin. Our host, Zach Carlson, and Joseph Zito, or not Joseph Zito, but Joseph Zimba, they've been the two hosts that I knew and kind of came up with, and Joe is still the host for Terror Tuesday. But it was the first time I really, really, really resonating the difference between seeing a movie for the very first time in 35 mil on the big screen compared to like seeing your burnout ratty VHS tape. But also too, it's like this that has such an amazing soundtrack. So to get to hear it in the 3570 Dolby just blew me away. I could not get over how much of a difference that cliche of all cliches. You really have never seen your favorite film till you've seen it on the big screen, and that's the honest truth. You can watch it a million times. Cool. It is. You guys, I told you I did all those years on Boyhood, the Linklater film.
Yep.
So Eller, our young star, he would always come to Terror Tuesday because at that time in his life he was homeschooled, and I was like, Eller, it's like, are you going to be there this weekend? It's The Wraith. You have to come. Oh, well, Garin, tell me all about this film. It's like, it's got cars, and it's got music, and it's got sex, and it's got violence. And
it's
like
got Randy Quaid.
Yeah, it's got Randy Quaid. It's got a crazy Cassavetes. It's got all this. And like, I can see him learning more about this and forgetting his lines. So Rick was like, you got to stop. He's too focused on your stupid car movie. So I sent him up in the box, which is our VIP area. Not that Eller's above sitting with the commoners. It's just sometimes I can afford to get the box seats for my friends. And him and his girlfriend, actually his fiance now, they went, and then like he shot me this like 3-page long text. I got to tell you, that movie was just. So I felt good about that, because that movie, that one you need to see on the big screen, because that one's special. It's a good film.
Yeah, it's a really good film, and it's unjustly 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I just pulled up while you were talking. You're ready for the top review on this damn site? It's a big glop of low-budget Hollywood cheese with a ridiculous town comprising of one house, one burger joint, and no citizens. What the hell? I love that town. I want to live there.
I want to, first off, not only do I want to live there, I want to be like Randy Quaid's assistant. And here's something else about that. You guys, like, I don't know the last time if you guys saw the trailer for this, but our friend Gary Werner Kent was one of the stunt guys on that show. And there's a part where the car goes into the garage and just blows it to living shit. Well, they had a little discrepancy on how much dynamite they were going to use on that. They were only supposed to use 15, and they used 50. And that is how your shit gets on the trailer and not just the movie. And I'd ask Gary about that, and they're like, "Yeah, you guys got that at 15, right?" "Yeah, 50." So Gary like picks his shit up and moves it back like 100 more yards while they blow it up. But it is incredible, and that nowadays would just be CG or something like that. But man, you could feel that thing go off. And again, that's how you get. That's how you get your shit circled 3 times.
That's why I can't do what you guys do. I'd kill myself in a day and a half. I'm bad at math and I'm really neglectful.
Mike Marvin, that movie, because they had like 3 people get killed on that film, and it really, he wasn't making cinematic masterpiece. He was making The Wraith, and he made like Hot Dog the movie and Hamburger the motion picture. So he was going into like definitely a food genre, but there's a lot of talent, and for like a little $4 million budget, you got a good looking picture.
Yeah, for sure. And great music and a really, really good cast. I forgot Sherilyn Fenn was in that fucking movie. She, being a huge Twin Peaks fan, that's a...
Yeah, Charlie Sheen. You got Clint Howard in an incredible looking wig. You got Cassavetes. There's directing talent in that. There's music talent in that. There's racing talent in that. And that car, to this day, is still badass.
That is I was literally going to say badass. That's a badass car. It's too bad the food horror genre didn't take off. I wonder are there any other food horror movies?
They could have worked its way to like Shamrock Shake, the McDonald's produced.
The stuff came out about that time, and then like it was just like a really good food push, but like anything else, they're like, you know what? I don't think this is gonna last.
That's okay. The car genre is better. But see, this leads me to the next question, because this is something that I don't know if you've been working in the business for quite a while. So like, I don't know if you've detected a change, but I feel like when the Wraith came out, even if I'd heard like, it was bad, quote unquote bad or whatever from someone, I would have still gone to see it. But I feel like if that movie came out now and it was 33% going into opening weekend, nobody would see it. Right, it would just stay away. I feel like the way modern things are structured, it like kills all the fun out of good bad movies, right?
Yeah, and people, oh my god! I mean, have you ever watched a movie with critics before? Jesus Christ!
No,
what a bunch of stuffy assholes. I can't believe I'm watching this. I'm like, well, bro, nobody said you had to come to the Huntsman. All right, this is your quote unquote job. Shut up. And
that's hilarious.
I don't envy them, but I don't pity them either, because that's a shit job, and I don't want that. Because God forbid they have to review stuff I work on. Poor bastards.
No, you've done some great movies.
The only time I've seen something similar, it wasn't like a critic screening, but I was working the Cinegear Expo the first year I moved to LA, and the one film they were showing at the Paramount Theater was Once Upon a Time in the West, the Seth MacFarlane film. And so they were like, okay, stand at this door, do this. And everyone that walked out just went, oh, what a piece of shit. like they were tortured to sit through the whole movie.
Well, I have a feeling that film critics don't know that you have access to 50 pounds of dynamite. So someone should probably let them know.
Yeah, yeah. God forbid somebody destroys Rotten Tomatoes and people have to think for themselves. Oh, humanity.
Right? Absolutely.
You guys, I'm just so glad that stuff wasn't around when I was a kid, or wasn't, growing up, we had amazing critics. Leonard Maltin's still around, but we still had, we had Siskel and Ebert. We had, we had some incredible film critics who you really, I think, A.O. Scott and Richard Roper, I still respect the shit out of those guys, but
absolutely,
the guy from the Arizona State Gazette, Times, online. I just don't care what he has to say. I don't care about, in Austin with that creepo Harry Knowles who will give you a good review if you bring him out to set, and I just, Yeah, the worst. Just the absolute
Well, and it's
worst.
also it's also the fact that it's all aggregated now, and that's
Yeah.
that's what kind of holds sway, and I just feel like that's completely unfair because I mean I got to admit most of my friends, when I was deciding what movies to watch, like I don't know, really young, most of my friends thought Exorcist 3 was terrible, right? And if I had listened to the aggregate, I would have been like, oh, fuck that movie. But then I watched it. I'm like, this is one of my favorite horror movies I've ever seen, right? So it's like, you got to decide for yourself. It's not about how many people are for or against something or whatever. It's like, who tells you something convincing about it, right? Like, I don't care if a movie's good or bad, but if you come to me and you tell me that, the movie's got this badass car in it, and like, well, I'm going to go watch it just from the details that you're telling me, right?
Yeah.
You got to give people details, not like, oh, it's good or it's bad.
And another thing too, you can gauge just by somebody's excitement level. It's like when you can't wait to, I'll never forget that text that Eller sent me coming out of the race. He was like, "Man, that was so much fun, and I was really dragging this week of filming, but that was just what I needed." And I was like, "Well, that's what that's what it's all about." Because Eller's like, at that time he was probably maybe 17, and that movie's like 25 years older than him, but man, that's kind of what it's all about. You share that knowledge with that next generation and hope that they like the Wraith just as much. But I will say this about the Wraith and that shitty 33% rating: the only people I know, 100% people love the Wraith. That's all that matters to me.
It's funny you say that because I'm looking at the rating right now, and it's a total of 12 critics. 4 thought it was fresh, 8 thought it was rotten. They give it 33. But then you look over at the audience score; it has over 9,000 people voting on it, and they got it at a fresh 61% of people who enjoyed it. So it's like, who are you gonna listen to? You gonna listen to the 12 people or 9,000?
Yeah, the audience knows better.
I'm gonna listen to the.
From someone who works on films, what makes a movie, even when it's not the best movie ever, just fun? Like, what elements make the movie like fun, even if it's bad?
Well, a couple things, you guys. When I first came to Louisiana, the Sci-Fi Channel movies had left Iowa because every movie needs incentives. And don't be fooled. There's a reason Disney is filming the Marvel movies in Georgia because every movie needs money. So those movies came to Louisiana once the incentives dried up in Iowa. And while our director hates the movie and won't acknowledge it, the first Sci-Fi Channel movie I ever did was called Scream of the Banshee. It was 2 6-day weeks, like 100 hours a day. But God, was it so much fun. It was fun to watch. It was fun to work on. It was just, I rank it as like one of my all-time favorite shows. And if Steven was to ever hear this podcast, I'd hope that he would know that I know he hated the movie. But you guys, if you ever watch this movie, watch it with the commentary on, because it's just an hour and a half of the director ripping the entire. Oh, it's gold! I gave it out as a wrap gift. It's
That's hilarious.
It's incredible. The company was After Dark, so we always were able to shoot on 35 mil. We were always, because those movies they'd go theatrical for a series called The 8 Films to Die For. So that was a film festival that would come, like, because I lived in the Midwest, and it was like a traveling circus. You'd get it for one weekend a year, and it would always be every year 8 new films, and it was great because you knew nothing about them. Some could be psychological, some could be fun, some could be Evil Dead horror comedy, but you never knew what you're going to get in. You just saw a poster, and
That's so
it goes
true.
back to those. Yeah, it goes back to those old AIP Roger Corman. You sell the poster. But that was my first start, and it was so great because I grew up on that film series in the Midwest, so to finally be a part of it meant something special. And maybe I just had a little more, I looked at them a little more, but I mean, you're making movies on 35 mil. You're getting paid. You're getting paid well. You're with friends. Those friends that I made on that film are some of my very best friends in life, and they will be, and they have been for a decade. So I think really
that's
fun.
so goddamn cool. I love that because I love going into movies not knowing about them. I know that it's so hard to do now, but that's a great point. Those movies, they just came at you. It was like you didn't even have. How are you gonna like vet 8 movies? You just like fuck it, I'm just gonna watch them, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
Sometimes there were like real gems in there.
And and me and my friend Jay, we would go. We'd catch 3 Friday night or 3 Friday night, 3 Saturday, and then on Sunday, I'd probably catch the last 2 by myself because my friend was like, "Fuck that." But those, the nice thing about the After Dark ones, like I said, they would get theatrical distribution and they would play. So we'd always have like a little more money, get like a Billy Zane or get a star that, like William Devane, who had done all those great films from the '70s and still does all the Nolan films. And you would get all those actors who you really liked and respected and just wanted to catch either at the start of their career or the twilight of their career or their kind of, got the mortgage to pay this month kind of part of their career. But you always enjoyed that aspect of it. And to this day, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. There's nothing more exciting than getting that first call sheet to see who you work with. That's really,
so cool.
Like yeah, it's like Christmas.
So this leads me to a question, and if it's dumb, just let me know. I'm really curious. When you watch a movie and it's a movie you haven't worked on, can you tell that the people who made the movie had fun doing it?
Sometimes, like if you watch a movie like Alien 3 or some of these movies, and then you research a little, like yes, it's a troubled production, and you can just tell. You can watch Blade Runner and tell that was a miserable shoot. You can watch Alien 3 and see it's a miserable shoot. You can usually tell because it shows up. It's like,
sure.
It's like a crap production.
Has a horror movie ever taken you really, really by surprise, where you walked into it not knowing a lot about it and didn't expect much, and it just kind of blew your mind?
Exorcist 3. I wasn't Exorcist 3. I saw when I was on a deployment. I just it was always in the $5 bin, and I love the first one, and I don't hate the second one. So I got part 3. And I missed it theatrically in 1990. And it's the one Terror Tuesday one that we've had the hardest time trying to get a print of. But man, I'll tell you what, with that movie preaches patience. Because you're going to have 2 of the best jump scares you've ever had in your entire life. Just be patient. And then you're like, once that first one gets you, you're like, shit, I'm really into this now. And then, you may not get 2 good jump scares in like 20 films combined, but that one has 2 legendary ones. And then the whole chase scene where he's trying to get back to rescue his daughter before that possessed lady cuts her head off. I mean, that's and it starts with the actors. I mean, you have the great George C. Scott. You've got
Brad Dourif.
You got Brad Dourif. You have all these. You have all these great actors. And I just worked with Brad last year, and he had told us about how difficult the production was, and it showed. But man, what a film! That is a terrific film. And again, it's just be patient. Just trust it.
What I was going to tell you is just so you know, Garin, like literally, if I had come across Exorcist 3 Blu-ray DVD and the blurb on top said, "This movie preaches patience," I'd be like, I'm buying that damn movie. That is the best quote. Because that's totally true. Like they rush everything now, right? But like back then, that hallway scene with the nurse, it lasted like 5 minutes. It felt like it went forever.
Man, I'll tell you what. That first time I saw that, I was sitting in a Humvee with my buddy, and I fucking nearly shit myself because it takes. You know what scene I'm talking about too? The scene where the cross, where the corpse comes after the. Oh my god! It's the perfect combination of just waiting for them to cut that sound. Oh, I was like, I'm in this now. I mean, I'm in this. But that show, like I said, that's you could tell, like Blatty put everything he had into that film. And I'm so glad that it's been vindicated and it's been resurrected and it's been re-edited and it's been Blu-ray, DVD, everything. But I'll say it. I mean, that film's a masterpiece. That's a terrific film.
When we reviewed that film, we called it one of the best, if not the best, horror film ever directed by a horror author, someone who's primarily an author first, right? And like the only things that really kind of contended with it in my mind were obviously Hellraiser, like Clive Barker, and then if you count Guillermo del Toro, which is interesting because now he just won the Oscar, so that kind of like style of that sort of thing is sort of coming back, which is interesting. But I think there's a patience that comes with being an author and being a director, and you could tell he gave everything to that. You could totally tell.
Those, that's the thing about, because a lot of people hate long films, but I don't care how long it is. Just take me somewhere I've never been. And we did we were building up for, because we were going to get Shape of Water at our theater. So we did this amazing Guillermo del Toro retrospect, and we'd shown Pan's Labyrinth, we'd shown Hellboy 2, we'd shown Pacific Rim, and we'd shown not Kronos, but is it The Devil's Backbone? Or I think that's the title of it, which I'd never seen before. And man, I mean, that's a slow moving film, but I mean, once you get into it, it's like, again, I mean, it's early stuff, Kronos in that film. I mean, all his stuff is good. I never saw the Castle one with Tom Hiddleston, and Pacific Rim was pretty cool, but man, his stuff, Pan's Labyrinth, that's a masterpiece.
Yeah, he's really thoughtful, and you could tell that, we were talking about having fun making a movie, but you can tell when someone puts their whole brain and spirit into it. You can tell he loves it, and he's doing it out of love. That's for sure. Wait, is it possible to say that working on certain horror genres is more fun or interesting than others, or is it all pretty much just the same, or the quality of who you're working with instead of what it is?
It can be like horror comedies. Oh my! Did you guys see The Final Girls? Did you guys see it?
Yes.
I worked on that.
I love that movie.
Thank you. But like we were, Todd. I don't think like he kind of like he tried to, like, me and my friend Eddie. We were like the true horror files on that, and the writers of that film, humongous. And horror guys, we just flocked together. So. The writers found me and Eddie pretty quick on that show. Eddie is my really good effects friend, and Eddie is actually the one who told me about your guys' site, so I have him to thank.
Cool.
But yeah,
thanks, Eddie.
we could sniff Todd out pretty quick. Like, he was doing his EPK, and he was like, his favorite horror movies were The Nightmare Before Elm Street, and Eddie and I were just looking at each other like, no, this dude, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then also too, he had brought a copy of the final chapter to Friday the 13th final chapter. He had brought it to the first production meeting, and he brought it there to make fun of it. And my friend Eddie walked up, took the movie out, put it in the case, and took it. And that's why I love Eddie, because that's like, no, this movie, watch this movie. That's the first thing I would have said. Like, bro, have you watched this movie? Look at the talent that's in this film. And that's where I kind of knew that, I could, horror movies, we can sniff each other out. And horror fans, we can sniff each other out even quicker. And I knew that was like, okay, we'll kind of keep a little closer eye to make sure that he's not disrespecting our genre. But that movie could have been a lot of things. But when I finally saw it, I was really happy with the job Todd did. And that was such a fun summer, because I started on that movie. We shot for, I think, 8 weeks, but I came in an additional 8 weeks earlier so we could build that house, the cabin where they stay. That we built that, and it's still there to this day. Inside, outside, we did everything in there, interior, exterior, everything. And that was one of my.
So you didn't blow that shit up like Pet Sematary style?
Let me tell you something. The fact that house is up today is a miracle, because we didn't pre-treat. We didn't do the whole time. I'm just preparing for this thing to cave in at any point during filming. But it didn't.
My God.
But we've been out there since. I went out there for Jeepers Creepers 3 just to see if, like, the house was still there, and it was. Like, this is crazy.
way.
They've since, but yeah, it's still there. I was like, guys, you can't live in this. Oh, we've been staying here for some time. I was
Oh
like
my
the guy
god.
at the end of Poltergeist trying to warn people to move out of their house, you know. But yeah, I
That's
did there.
fantastic. Do you have a clause in your contract that if like something bad happens in the film, it'll be called like the final Garin or something? You should.
Oh, I thought that was gonna get. I could have swore, like, I never thought that. And I'm way more wrong than I am right. I thought that had the chance to get franchised, and we even had the scene at the end, which I kind of hated because A, they didn't film it with us. B, um,
Yeah.
no one died, so you're like, okay, so nothing mattered, and all the characters lived, and yeah, so I really hated that.
Yeah, that was pretty
Uh,
gimmicky. That was like
well,
that's the weak to me. That's one of the weaknesses of like the Final Destination when they kind of dip. That felt like a Final Destination ending, and it was just not great.
well, we've ripped off every other genre. We might as well just grab that one while we're at it. You guys, we were supposed to. Me and Eddie were actually supposed to be in the film when they're introduced to our young star's mom's last film. Eddie and I were supposed to be the host for it, and then Todd was like, "Well, write me up like 4 pages." So I wrote him up the pages and the treatment. And I mean, we were going to be so far in the background, like you couldn't see it. But again, you're explaining things to Todd. I'm like, Todd, when you do these retro screenings, you have host and you have film and you have this. And Ellie, our DP was like, well, Garen, do you have movies on film? I'm like, yeah. It's like, I got like 2 dozen friends. Just tell me, I'll bring them. And we can like, as long as it's out of focus, we can show whatever we want in the background and not have to pay a license fee. And but one of the actors ended up like taking all our dialogue, and we got excised. That's how it goes. You write better stuff than them. That's how it goes.
that
But
that is
it was going to be
unfortunately how it
great
goes.
because because there was a scene because Eddie is kind of short, and like when the theater catches fire, there was going to be a reveal as we're all coming out of there, and I was going to carry and Eddie it out, like saying that line from Titanic, "I have a child," and like I'm trying to force my way outside the door, but it didn't work out, and that's just how it goes. But we wrote pretty good stuff. I'll see if I can find that for you guys, and I'll send it
That's
to you.
awesome. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Tell the Hello Weekly listeners an obscure horror movie they haven't seen that they gotta see. Like, what's something that's just really under the radar that's got.
Oh, that God, there's so many to choose from. Um, Probably, and it's part of the franchise, and I'd like to think they've all seen it. But if you've never seen any of the Friday the 13th movies and you're interested in just watching one, watch my friend Tommy's Friday the 13th Jason Lives. That movie owns. And it's the one I show to people all the time that have never seen a Friday the 13th film. They're like, yeah, I've never seen the others, but I want to have a good time. And like, this is the one. You got Alice Cooper to do the soundtrack. You got a guy, Tommy, who loves Universal. And when I brought that movie with me to Iraq and I showed it to one of my friends, and he's like, dude, I'm already digging this movie. I love the quick, thin man, 30s, 40s dialogue, how these guys are just shooting scenes. Just quick timing, quick wit, well written. And it's the one that really saved the franchise. Because as much as I love Part 5 is trash. Made by a porno director. It is garbage. It's wonderful. It's amazing trash, but it is a trash movie.
It
And
is.
Part 6 adds class, intelligence, vindication. And the one of the Tommy had told me that the movies always had a residual effect. Part 5 made a lot of money because of Part 4. Part 6 didn't make a lot of money because of Part 5. Part 7 made a lot of money because of Tommy's Part 6. But it opened up the
Interesting.
doors for him. And yeah, isn't that crazy? What's
That's
even
really
crazier
cool.
is I know more people and I have more friends from Part 5 than I do any of them. Because I love trashy movies. And I've worked with a lot of them. John Shepard was our boss on Man Down. He was our EP. Marco St. John, who's a legend. I've worked with him on a dozen films. I just worked with Miguel Nunez. There's so many of them that I've worked with either behind the scenes or in front of the camera. And those movies, those Friday the 13th movies, are just made by the nicest people. And they really, really are. And it's funny how we blow them up to like this cinematic greatness. And back then, you know, those people were embarrassed. Paramount was embarrassed. Those were the Sci-Fi Channel movies of the day, made for like $1 million under false. I mean, Paramount did everything they could to lowball those. They wouldn't let them hire union. They wouldn't let them hire DGA. They would change the title so actors couldn't claim residual. They would go in incentive state. They would never film a Friday the 13th in the same state twice because the productions owed money to that state.
Wow.
I mean, they were as flaky and as corrupt productions as you could imagine. Terror Inc., which was always their production label. I mean, they were some shady fucks. And we all hold these movies to such cinematic grandeur. But again, you know, I talk to those guys. They're like, Garin, you should really stop blowing these movies up. Because, but they meant a lot to me. And they mean a lot to a lot of people. But again,
and I agree with you. They mean a lot to me. I'm glad you said it because we reviewed part 6 on the How Low Can We Go series, and one of the reasons that we picked it was, first of all, I felt like I had never seen a horror movie where I actually told Nick this story in the podcast episode. Bram Stoker wrote a short intro to Dracula, and it was released as a short story called Dracula's Guest, and it was a really little perfect standalone short story. You didn't need the rest with it. And the first minutes of part 6 are like a mini horror movie to me. I was so jazzed when that first cemetery sequence wrapped. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing. It was so much fun, right?
And the greatest thing about that was like they had never done anything like that on any Friday before or since that. I mean, you had the James Bond opening. How cool is that shit? Where Jason stepped out of the eye and cuts it. You have
amazing
the intro. That was the first time it had a pre-intro scene. You know, it just started with the action right there. And like Tommy says it best, just got to keep it going. You know, keep the movement. You know, truck starts up right away. He gets his mask right away, gets the weapon, turns to the camera, and here we go. And we're on our way. But the quick-witted dialogue. Tommy McLaughlin is a million things besides the fact that he's an amazing cinephile. But man, did he nail that dialogue or what? That was just like
I totally agree. And honestly, half the time when people ask me what my favorite Jason kill is, I think it's when he kills the vehicle in that movie is my favorite Jason kill. It was that thing goes on its side and he just climbs out of it and he's standing over trying. It's just amazing.
Have you ever heard Tommy tell the story about because they had like a really penny pinching UPM on that, and they would always like the crane's gonna be there, right? Oh yeah, it'll be there first thing in the morning. Crane's not there, nothing's there, anything's there. So when they got that motorhome, there was a brand new swamp cooler on the top, and UPM requested to have it. And so they took it off, and Tommy was like, absolutely not. Put it back up. And then when they ramped it, cooler, because they only had, that's the definition of a oneer. They only had the cooler, and no one told the UPM. And so it like literally flies out of frame right past him. And he was like, was that my, and everybody was high-fiving.
It's amazing.
That's the great stories that you hear from these guys once you get to know them. Because
that is so amazing.
My God, that's a great story too. The fact that it just went right past him is even better. And he's like pointing as it goes by. Was that my? Yeah, it was. Still good.
You've done some high concept, like Final Girls is pretty high concept. Happy Death Day is high concept. Like, how do you feel about sort of like high concept horror as a sort of subgenre?
Those two movies actually couldn't be more dissimilar during the shoot.
No, you're right.
Because Happy Death Day was Christopher Landon, Michael Landon's son, that directed it, and you could tell, like, that's a dude that was like literally born to direct. His dad's the legendary actor. We got pics of him on Little House on the Prairie, And that guy was just like, I mean, he was born to be a director. Besides being an outstanding human being and a wonderful person, Chris is all those and times a million. But he
Sure.
just like, yeah. And, we're being produced by a horror company. So, we had the backing of Blumhouse, and this is what we do. And no one does it better than us. Final Girls was more, when we shot it, was way more comedy. And we put those were long days. If I have my druthers about it, I'd rather do a more pure horror film than a horror comedy. You got to have both because you don't want to just have a cannibal holocaust where it's just like you're getting beaten down with a shovel for like 2 hours. You got to have a movie. You got to have a movie where I think for a really good horror movie, you should have some comedy in it. More than anything, you should have people that will fight back. You have to have a strong. It doesn't have to be a Final Girl, but in real life, you're going to have that fight or flight mentality. And my favorite horror movies are the ones where people fight back. Like, I loved You're Next. I love, the Final Girls, our girl fights back.
Yep. And
Happy Death Day, not only does Jen's character or Jess's character become a better person, she fights back.
Well, You're Next is such an interesting example because that was one of the few movies where when I finished it, I would have been afraid to run into the heroine in an alleyway. Like, you're right. Like that. I mean, that's a formidable character.
Yeah, and I was always hoping that we'd see more of that, but I mean, some movies are just good enough as one, and I'm glad.
But I think you're right. I think like when I think about it's funny because. When I think about something like Monster Squad, right? That's one of the things that jumps out to me is that you band together to fight back, right? Just like it or what have you. Sometimes it's in groups, sometimes it's solo individuals. But you're right. I mean, that's such a great theme for the genre. You got to get that right when you do it.
And the thing, it's just like real life too. Courage is contagious, and you're like, oh man, that dude got a couple of shots in. I bet I can get a few shots in, and before you know it. 2 becomes 20, 20 becomes 200. And that tends to be how it works in real life. Like Friday the 13th, it's like, hey man, he's got a knife. Well, you know what? We have a machine gun. Well, let's just handle that knife.
And horror movies also show you that cowardice is contagious too. A lot of characters who cut and run. And they're out of there.
You guys, they had that Negan skit from SNL, and the haters were on there, and the guy's getting ready to get bashed in the head. He's like, show some goddamn courage. And those, it's the truth. I mean, it's just, everybody wants to see the weasel get it. Everybody wants to see the spineless guy get it. But, getting back to like Tommy's Friday the 13th, when your characters are so well that you're like, oh, I really like that guy. And that was the same with like Friday the 13th Part 4. I like Crispin Glover. I liked all those kids. And, when you lose one, you're like, oh, man, I really like them. So that's the main reason why I really didn't like the ending of The Final Girls, because there was, we didn't lose anybody. We got everybody right back. All right, well, that was kind of lame.
Yeah.
With Adam's character, if you watch, like, there's a final scene where Adam's character lives, which doesn't make any sense because he's in the movie. How can his character be alive? Oh. Get it. We're just talking about
it. All right, let's do a lightning round because we have the How Low Can We Go series is mandating that we watch some movies heading down the rating. So you can help us make some decisions here. Here's what's on our plate. We're not watching all of these, so depending on what you say, we may or may not. You're the thumb on the scale. You may help us decide. The Seventh Sign.
Oh.
Don't have to. You can hate it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that long groan should have probably given you an explanation.
Okay, good. We're skipping that. We're skipping that one.
It's tied with it's right there with my favorite.
Poltergeist 3.
Oh yeah, that's a total win. That's a total win.
All right, rock on. Graveyard Shift.
I like Graveyard Shift.
All right, that's on. It's in there.
I
the
still
Messengers.
feel like there's enough. What's the Passengers?
The Messengers. It's Kristen Stewart's
Messenger. I was like,
Yeah.
God, you guys are watching Jennifer Lawrence.
No.
I think 15 would probably be too high for that movie. The Messengers. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Is that the Kristen Stewart one?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it either, so we're trying to decide.
I give that one a chance just because, if you subtract the Twilight era of her film, really is a fine act. Makes good movies.
No shit. I liked Personal Shopper a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she's really watching her in those Woody Allen films and then watching her in other stuff too. She's really a fine actress. And we worked with her a couple years ago on it's called American. I don't know, but I can't remember. But she's a great kid. Her and Jesse Eisenberg.
You left off there. It sounded like American Psycho, so I just cast her in American Psycho in my head, and it's not working out. All right, go ahead.
Oh, if you watch her and stuff like Fincher's Panic Room, and she's really, really a fine actor. I know everyone.
That's right. She was Panic Room.
Yeah, everyone has college to pay for, mortgages, tuition, and those people, like even Robert Pattinson, he's a fine actor. I mean, there's a lot of good actors that do bad movies, and there's none worse than those Twilight movies. I've only seen one because we did Master Pancake, and I was like, this is even worse than I thought. I mean, these are really horrible movies, and I'm glad the kids grew up and turned against them, because we, after those movies, I had done Beautiful Creatures, and we did The Host, and all these other franchises that were supposed to take off. And those kids, God bless them, they raised their middle fingers and like, no. And that was the end of it. And
I'm only glad they exist. I'm only glad they exist because of riff tracks.
What would we do without riff tracks on those?
Right? those are the best. How about End of Days?
The Schwarzenegger movie was okay. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Gabriel Byrne is worth watching just for that.
Okay. Have you seen The Unborn?
I never even heard of that one.
Okay. Urban Legends Final Cut.
Fuck that. No. That's the Kevin Williamson crap. No. All
right, we're good. Valentine.
More Kevin Williamson crap. No.
Oh, wow. He's really low ranked. I didn't even know he's doing all this shit. Silent Hill Go ahead.
If it's early 2000s, late 1990s, it's Kevin Williams crap. Or Kevin Williams' garbage. Stay away. You've been warned.
I'm just going to have to look up the byline now. That's great. How about the Fog remake?
Oh, God. I'm so happy John Carpenter got paid. But, man, no. That's a terrible movie.
All right, Nick, we're screwed. There's no choices down here. These are all terrible.
We have to tighten up the belt and get through it.
And then that leaves us at a lofty 1% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's what I'm excited for.
Dracula 2 Ascension. I don't know what the fuck this movie is, but it's Dracula 2.
That's part 2. Oh, you know what? When you guys asked me about one to recommend you guys, what I was going to recommend was Dracula 2000. It was shot here in New Orleans. You watch this movie and you're like, Jesus Christ, look at the star power of this movie.
That's Gerard Butler, right? He's the...
Oh, Jerry Butler's in it. Mr. Plummer's in it. Johnny Lee Miller's in it. Sean Patrick. I mean, you watch it and you're like, that has got some star power. It's got an amazing soundtrack. It's a good film. And that would be one that is just like, oh man, I wasn't born and I wasn't old enough to see Dracula 2000. Like, well, today's your lucky day, Chester, because you get to watch.
That's awesome, and it's 17%.
Yeah, so I mean, it's 17% and rising.
I can buy Dracula 2000, Dracula 2 Ascension, and Dracula 3 Legacy for $5 on Amazon.
That's an actual pack.
That's a pack.
You want to know something too? If they throw in free shipping, you got a deal.
That's awesome.
There's this me and my buddy Ian and a whole bunch of folks. We did this horror movie called The Culling and it's probably in the negatives. You probably won't have to review it. So I was at Walmart picking up some supplies, and I see it's like on the top of the $3.74 bin, and I post to Ian. I was like, Ian, bro, our movie, it's at Walmart. Do you want me to buy it? And he sends me this giant text back, only if you steal it.
That's awesome. Well, I don't think I've ever heard the word culling used in a sentence.
I have not.
Right. That's an unusual title for a horror movie.
That was an interesting horror movie because our director would come 3 hours late with the producers. They carpooled because they were saving money. And we just got so fed up with it that we just pre-lit every scene. Because the actors were there. Everybody was there.
Oh,
and we just practiced with the actors. And when the director and those guys finally showed up, we were like, dudes, like, just sit down and shut up. Say action. And then not only did we make our days, but we would wrap early because everything was set. We had enough lights. We had enough this just to get this piece of crap done. And the check cleared. And,
wow.
Man, it's just weird how I was like, and we had some, our editor for that was, I can't remember his first name, but, Mr. Ramey was, or Mr. Ramsey, he was John Carpenter's editor. He had edited The Thing, Escape from New York. So he was there on set with us, even though the director wasn't. And he literally would just tell us, like, okay, guys, this is what scenes we need to fill in. So let's start prepping the 2-shot. Let's start prepping it. And as long as we had him, we knew exactly. That's the perk of, like, you can actually have your editor on set or having edit close by. So you can just bring him, and it's so great because we didn't need those goofballs. And when they finally showed up, they were a lot of fun because they'd been drinking. And so it made for, like, a second half of the day that was really interesting. I was like, you want me to hold his head up while he yells action? Yeah, no mind.
Apparently culling is code for having a
massive hangover.
Blood alcohol.
Well, these guys were the same guys. These guys were the same guys that made those epic films like Hard Ticket to Hawaii and some of the others. So you pretty much knew what you're getting in for.
Yep.
Oh, jeez. You're just trying to fill in a few weeks out of the year.
That's one of those, like, that's an assignment job. They're like, hey, you're free, right? Yeah. Good, because nobody wants to do this movie. So report to set tomorrow. Bye.
Oh, okay.
I'm on you before you can say no. But I mean, again, the check's clear, and we had a pretty good time. And just the fact that movie was A, in focus the entire time, and B, got distribution is two things that just baffle.
Are there any horror locations that just have, like, atmosphere that impress you, or because you're in the business, it's just kind of all work? Like, if you're standing at the Exorcist stairs, would you get a chill, or is it just kind of the same?
You guys, there's a graveyard that every film in New Orleans filmed, and when you guys watch Dracula 2000 again, being that was shot here in New Orleans, you'll see the graveyard I'm talking about. This cemetery is legendary. We've had movies just come here to film for a day for it. When you guys rewatch the movie, you'll see which cemetery I'm talking about. This incredible graveyard mosque. And everyone films there. Everyone. So it's kind of cool to see those locations. But my favorite movie that we've taken the most locations for, and when I'm away, I'll watch it because it reminds me of New Orleans, is Hard Target. You watch that film in every single location, even though this movie is like early 1990s. We have filmed in every location in that entire movie. Ever. Just kidding. Oh, where are we going? Oh, cool. Today is the Hard Target Bridge scene, which I was just on 2 weeks ago. You know, the part where Jean-Claude Van Damme is driving on the motorcycle, completely standing. Have you guys seen Hard Target? It's so incredible. Yeah. That's my buddy Marco St. John's in that too. He gets killed, so he doesn't. But that's the movie. It's shot in the eye, but he gets killed by Arnold Vosloo, which is pretty cool, and Lance Henriksen. So that's pretty awesome. You're gonna go.
That's a noble death.
That way.
that's a noble death.
You know, because I told him for the last night of the Alamo Drafthouse South Lamar before we closed it. That was the employee. They shut the whole theater down, and it was only by invite. and it was only stuff that people programmed. Like we had the Three Stooges marathon. Don Costarelli came and brought his print of John Dies at the End. We showed Hard
Nice.
Target. It was just people, what programmers and what the people who worked at the Draft House wanted to go. So I told Marco, I was like, hey, Marco, we're going to see you die on the big screen. He's like, what movie are you showing? It's like, because he's been killed in so many, it's like Hard Target. He's like, oh, that was a good death. Right through the eyeball.
What's the most fun death you've ever filmed?
Oh, God. Probably the funnest death because it's so memorable. You guys know that, like, every time somebody gets hurt, or not hurt, but every time a stuntman does a stunt, they get paid every time they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So my buddy Dan, who played essentially the Jason character in Happy Death Day, he gets hit by they send him back in time, and he gets hit by the Cadillac that's coming into frame. Dan must have got hit a dozen times.
Oh my God.
And mind you, he's getting paid every time he gets hit. But I've never seen a stunt person do this where he was just like, Garin, tell him that's enough. Because Todd loved takes. He'd have had him do it 50 times. And I just was like, that's enough. That's it. Oh, we still have coverage. Coverage of getting hit? He's been hit 12 times. There is no more coverage.
He's like, I don't want to get paid anymore.
Like he said he doesn't want your money anymore. He wants to live. He wants a family.
He chose life.
So Dan, that was the first time I ever had heard but I mean that was I wanted to call it after take 5. Like sometimes being that we don't shoot on we still shoot on film sometimes, but now with the digital age, they'll just run take after take after take after take.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you gonna surf it? No, we're just getting warmed up. It's like, he's getting hit by the car. There's no warm up. But again, if Dan wouldn't have called that, that'd have been 40 takes. And Dan would have retired or wealthy man, but you wouldn't remember who he was. That's for sure. Those ratchet pulls, man, that was just impact after impact. And I was like, bro, are you? And they'll always give you the thumbs up afterwards. But that thumb was coming up a lot slower each time. So I was waiting for that middle finger to come up.
I'm done.
That's probably the most memorable kill of them all.
This has been so much fun. Go ahead.
Well, you guys, anytime, just let me know. And
no, this has been fantastic. What's coming up for you that you can talk about? Just to bookend. We just finished Semper Fi. And that was they went out to LA in your guys' neck to finish the Iraq sequence. Mm-hmm.
And then I started a movie this week, which is kind of like a horror rom-com called The Stand-In, but I was only subbing for a friend, and then I go back to the Highwaymen Monday because, man, we're so swamped right now. And the 3 jobs I do, set medic, assistant director, and PA, is like the job we need most. So there's no time off. There's no rest for the wicked. But I'm hoping there's another horror movie I might get. But if not, I'll get like a month off before we start Happy Death Day, Part 2. And that's really, I would like a little time for that one. Because, man, not only is it great to get brought back for the sequel, but so many of my friends are coming back for that. And it's the Blumhouse family. Not only do they treat you really well, but if you do a good job for them, they'll just keep bringing you back. And that's, I've said it before, it really is our generation's New World Picture. Because can you think of anybody that's turning in the movies that they do they're making like Get Out, our movie, for like $4 million and turning in like, $400 or $500 million profit. I mean, that is New World Picture. That's AIT.
It's amazing.
It's just, they're so good at it, but they don't stray from the formula. They're not going to go do a Scream change everything up. They know what they have, they know what they are, and they know what they want. And everybody's like, oh man, they got the sequel. You guys, your last one was $4.5 million. You guys probably got like $10 million this time. I'm like, no, we have 4.7.
Wow. Well, to get to 10 million, you're only gonna have to make 30 more of those movies. Wow.
Yeah, at this rate for us to get that. It's guys. What's really great about this show though is the total level of surprise, because our movie was supposed to be the standalone horror movie that shows up in theaters like the Friday the 13th one weekend, makes
Yep.
its money, and is out of theaters in 2 weeks. And
Yep.
Benji, which was filming exact same time as us, that was supposed to be the franchise. And Benji quietly got sold to Hulu for $3 million. And
Yep.
we, on the other hand, made $170 million, and we became the franchise. And
Amazing.
what came back to bite them was, being that we thought that we were just going to be the winner, we destroyed all the sets, we destroyed this and that, and they saved everything for Benji. Now we have to rebuild everything: the dorm, the hospital. But I mean, how it goes.
Well,
I mean,
given
we have
given the
100
concept of the movie, the fact that you got to go repeat what you did again, I think it's fitting.
Very fitting.
So,
I'll tell you guys this: I've never been more excited to get a script. And I can't wait to read what they have in store for us this time. I'm really, my boss Erin, who's just was the greatest. She's like, well, we'll be finalizing it, and I'll be sending it out soon. And like I can't wait to read that, because I can't wait to see where we're going to go with this adventure, because it's going to be
we're right there with you because we can't wait either. I'm really excited to find out what happens.
If you guys are planning a trip to New Orleans anytime soon, preferably between May and June 29th, well, we'll get you on set. You guys want to come
That's
on? I
awesome.
don't think Aaron or the guys would mind.
No, we're
and it
planning
worked.
now. All right, this has been awesome. It has been so fun.